everybody. Welcome to the 2023 Veterans Memorial Ceremony. My name is Paulo Barros, and I'm the chairman of the Military and Veterans Liaison Committee for the City of Norwalk. How about a nice round of applause for the Ryan McMahon High School Concert Band conducted by Ryan McMahon. Our program will begin with the posting of the colors by the Norwalk Police Department Honor Guard. Please stand. Please remain standing, remove your hats, and face the flag for our national anthem. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Please welcome the chairman of the Veterans Memorial Committee, Richard Olson, for some opening remarks.
Thank you, Paula. It's great to see everyone here. Thank you so much. We thank you for being here for our annual ceremony. Some people get confused about Veterans Day, Memorial Day, and Armed Forces Day. Yesterday was Armed Forces Day. In 1950, President Harry Truman called for the establishment of a designated day to recognize the extraordinary service and sacrifice of our military personnel. Memorial Day greetings. Many families in Norwalk over the years have had their sons and daughters go off to serve and defend our great country. We honor and thank those who did, as well as those who never returned home. Per the American Legion Officer's Guide, this day is sacred with almost visible presence of those who have gone before us. We honor the memory of those who gave their lives in the service of their country, and of those others who have dropped their burdens by the wayside of life and are gone to their eternal rest. May the ceremonies of today deepen our reverence for our departed friends and comrades. Let us renew our pledge of loyalty to our country and its flag. Let us resolve by word and deed to emphasize the privilege and duty of patriotism. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. And now for the invocation given by Magida Hannah Stein.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the honor of allowing me to address you here. Please join me in this prayer for peace. Our parent in heaven who resides in our midst, we ask your blessing on this country, its leaders and advisors, and on this gathering. Guide our government with your good counsel that they may help bring a lasting peace in our world. May we see the day when war, bloodshed, hatred, and enmity are banished from our land and from our world. May we see the time when peace shall reign. May we come to love, to praise, to honor God and one another. As it says in Isaiah, Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation. They will no longer learn the ways of war. May we know that humanity should have no need for the sword and beat them into plows to feed our neighbors. And then may we beat those plows into instruments to make music that feeds our soul. Let love and justice flow like water throughout the land and throughout our world. Let peace fill the earth as waters fill the sea. And let us say Amen.
Thank you very much, Magida. Joining us today, Mayor Harry Reeling, Senator Richard Blumenthal, Senator Bob Duff, Council President Greg Burnett, Representative Dominique Johnson, Representative Roberts, Police Chief James Wolf, and Master Sergeant Don Fesarella. Thank you for coming. With that said, please welcome Navy veteran and Mayor of our city, Norwalk, Mayor Gary Kramer.
Thank you, Powell. The first thing I'd like to do is always, as I say welcome to everybody for being here, but thank you for being here. I always like to recognize and honor World War II veterans that might be among us, and today we have Paul Harris, a World War II veteran. And do we have any Korean War veterans here? Don't see any. Paul again. Paul, you were in Vietnam also, were you?
No.
Vietnam veterans? And all veterans, and on active duty as well. Please stand. And Thank you all for your service. You know, this is a month that's very solemn here in the country, but more specifically here in Norwalk, because I've always said that nobody does so much to recognize and honor veterans as the city of Norwalk, and this is just another example. Today we're here in memory of Norwalk's two Medal of Honor recipients, John McGrath and Dan Shea. Yesterday, for the first time in quite some time, we visited their graves and we placed a wreath on their grave just to honor and remember them for their service. So this morning, as I was thinking about yesterday, we planted flags on the graves of veterans throughout the city of Norwalk. But while I was at City Hall this morning for a brief solemn ceremony, I had a conversation with a guy, I know he's not here, but he should be, Dan Caparel, Vietnam War veteran who is experiencing some pretty ill health. But he came because he thought it was that important. And he stood while we had the ceremony, although he didn't have to. And afterwards I had a conversation with him, and he almost had a tear in his eye because not only of his health, but knowing that the veterans, the older veterans, we're losing them and we're losing their history. And we looked and said, you know, maybe we need to get more young people involved. And the people behind me here, the ROTC, it's so great to see them getting involved in these events. But we need to get more young people involved, or else we're going to lose that history. We're going to lose the Shea McGrath Memorial Ceremony that we have every year. We're not going to be able to, we're going to not have many people at the Memorial Day parades because maybe they don't understand what Memorial Day is all about and what sacrifices were made so that we can celebrate Memorial Day, or honor Memorial Day, I should say, have the picnics afterwards. But sometimes you don't realize why we're doing it. We're doing it to remember those people that gave us those freedoms. And the young people need to understand the value of those freedoms, the sacrifices that were made to make sure that we can live free. So I would encourage everybody, it's glad to see some young people over here and over there and amongst us in the audience. I would encourage everybody to take those opportunities to talk to your children, talk to your grandchildren, tell them and give them, it can be a learning experience of what the freedoms that we have are all about and how they were gained. So again, I want to thank you all for being here, and it is my pleasure to introduce a person who probably needs no introduction, United States Senator, who works hard not only for the state of Connecticut, but for the entire country, and for veterans as well. He's a tireless advocate for veterans' rights, and it's my honor and privilege to ask Senator Blumenthal to come up. And he's coming up without his cane.
I'm coming up without my cane. Don't tell my doctor. I had a surgery for a broken leg about 6 weeks ago, and I will tell you, not even a broken leg could keep me away from this ceremony, because it is always a real high point of the armed forces celebration. I was in a statewide event yesterday, but this one has a special meaning because, as the mayor said so rightly, Norwalk is so dedicated to its veterans, and the memory of the McGrath-Shea heroism should always inspire us. And I just want to expand on the point that the mayor made so well. Two of my sons have served, one as a Marine Corps infantry officer in Afghanistan, the other as a Navy SEAL. Their role models are you. You were the ones who inspired them. I could talk till I'm blue in the face on the floor of the United States Senate. All my rhetoric today has less effect on them than your leadership by example. The veterans who are here today, not only while you were in uniform, but when you come back and you contribute to our communities. The greatest generation not only saved our democracy in World War II, but they came back. They built the interstate, they desegregated our schools, they provided leadership in their communities that was priceless. And that's a great tradition in our country. And I will tell you, for all the naysayers and all the catastrophiers, we are so fortunate to have in our military today, and I see them every day. I'm on the Armed Services Committee, I'm on the Veterans Affairs Committee, some of the best, the very best, the smartest, the most dedicated young people in our nation's history. So don't let anyone tell you that our military is in decline. We have the best weapon systems, all the advanced technology, but we also have the best trained, the most dedicated men and women in our military today, and we should be very, very grateful to them. And they are in the tradition of Dan Shea and John McGrath. These heroes that we honor today are at the tip of the spear. They fought, they gave their lives, but every man and woman who put on that uniform deserves our thanks, because they are the role models to keep our country strong and free. So thank you all for being here today. I want to add one last plug, public service announcement. We passed in the last session of the Congress something called the PAC Act. It provides for care and benefits to every veteran exposed to toxic chemicals, burn pits, nerve gas. Increasingly, in the last 20 years, we've seen these toxic chemicals take a toll on our military veterans, causing cancer, thyroid disease, lung problems. Get screened. If you served over these last 20 years, get screened. It's obviously free. You go to the VA, it takes half an hour, but it can help prevent those cancers. I was proud to help to lead the effort on the PAC Act. Let's make it real by making sure that every veteran, your husband, your brother, your child, gets screened. Thank you for your being here today, and thank you for allowing me to say a few words to you. Thanks so much. God bless our great country.
Thank you very much, Mayor Reeling. Thank you, Senator Blumenthal. Thank you for being here. Now the Brian McMahon Band will play a medley of service songs. When you hear your service song, feel free to stand, salute, and sing along. like to please welcome our student guest speaker for today, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Ella McNulty with the Norwalk High School Air Force JROTC.
Ladies, gentlemen, and distinguished guests, good afternoon. I am Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Ella McNulty, Corps Commander of the Norwalk High School Air Force Junior ROTC, Unit CT-81. I am honored to be here today, representing the youth of Norwalk, and humbled to be in the presence of those of you who have served our country, as we remember those who gave their lives to protect our freedoms. I am a lifelong Norwalk resident, a proud great-grandchild of 2 World War II veterans, and grandchild of a Korean War veteran. I never knew my great-grandparents, and my grandfather rarely spoke of his service. His silences spoke for him. My generation never experienced war. I have never known someone who died in combat. I have never lived in fear of attack. I have never known what it's like to stand selflessly in the face of danger to protect my country and the freedoms it provides for its citizens. I try to imagine what it must be like to face battle, but it's near impossible for me to do so. To think that some of these individuals we honor today were my age is inconceivable. On April 14th, 1945, Private First Class John McGrath was only 2 years older than me when he stepped forward to act as a scout after an attack by German soldiers on his company in Casteldaiano, Italy. With only a rifle, he killed 2 Germans and wounded 3 in order to capture a machine gun, which he then used to neutralize 2 more machine gun nests, killing 7 and injuring 3 more Germans in the process. It was after volunteering to collect a report on the casualties that he was killed by exploding mortar shells. Years later, while serving in the Vietnam War, Private First Class Daniel Shea and his platoon were caught in enemy fire while crossing a rice paddy. Their platoon made their way to an island within the rice paddy, but several soldiers were injured and left along the way. As his Medal of Honor citation states, with complete disregard for his safety and braving the intense hostile fire sweeping the open rice paddy, Private First Class Shea made 4 trips to tend to wounded soldiers and carry them to the safety of the platoon position. It was on his way back with a 5th soldier that he was mortally wounded. He was 4 years older than me. Both individuals were awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously. I may not see combat in my life, or perform acts as selfless and brave as the individuals we honor today. But if Shea and McGrath can sacrifice their lives to protect our nation and its values, then I aspire to live my life in such a way that will leave this world a better place than when I found it. Today we stand here to honor Daniel Shea, John McGrath, and the other 216 Norwalk residents who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Next week, on Memorial Day, kids my age and younger will line the streets of Norwalk for the parade, waving flags and cheering, without fully understanding what it is we are cheering for. But may the innocence of the children always stand as a testament to the sacrifices made by those who have served. Meanwhile, may we who reap the rewards of those who came before us never forget their names and always strive to remember their stories as we honor their bravery through a life of service and selflessness. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Great speech. I also want to thank First Lady of Norwalk, Lucia Lynn, for being here. Thank you. Now, our guest speaker is our very own Chief Master Sergeant Jeffrey DeWitt. It is my honor to be able to introduce Jeff, who from 2018 to 2022 served as chairman of this committee and has helped me tremendously as I take on this new role. Please give a warm Norwalk welcome to Master Sergeant Jeffrey DeWitt.
Ella McNulty, huh? How about that? Great. tough act to follow. It's kind of funny, not funny, but ironic that a lot of what I want to talk about was sprinkled across Mayor Rilling's comments and Ms. McNulty's over there. The future's bright with people like you. Good job on Norwalk High School ROTC. Don Fessenden on the back row there. Raise your hand. If it weren't for leaders like that, I'm telling you, the youth of Norwalk are getting an education, and it's wonderful. Dignitaries, Mayor Rilling, my fellow veterans and their families, and residents of Norwalk and beyond, bless you. She's sitting next to the rival. She's already blessed. Thank you for attending this annual ceremony to honor those who died during wartime service. Over 2,000 years ago, scholar and philosopher Marcus Cicero said, "Poor is the nation that has no heroes, but poorer still is the nation that, having heroes, fails to remember and honor them." The best thing we can do as a society is to consistently honor them and remember them. It's my strong belief that we have this solemn obligation to remember them. If we fail, we are truly lost. We can never repay them, and we can never repay all those families who lost a loved one. Carrying their legacy on with ceremonies like this is incredibly important. My roadmap for today is to share some thoughts about patriotism, share some stories about some Norwalkers you might not know about who made the ultimate sacrifice, and then close with some potential ways we can raise the awareness and education of service and sacrifice in schools and homes around the city. I'm going to start with a strong statement that some of you may not agree with, but I promise to back it up with examples. This statement goes like this: patriotism is a fad. The Oxford Dictionary states the definition of a fad is an intense and widely shared enthusiasm for something, especially one that is short-lived. In a recent survey funded by the Wall Street Journal, 38% surveyed in 2023 said patriotism is very important. So if you lined up 10 people this year, 6 thought it's not very important. This in comparison was 70% in 1998 and 61% in 2019. What's going on? Part of the problem is, as far as I can see it, there isn't consensus in the United States regarding who is a patriot, or even what the word means. I can tell you I know what it feels like. And maybe you do too. Most of us here remember Desert Storm 1 in January and February 1991. Do you believe that's 32 years ago that happened? General Norman Schwarzkopf was a national hero. The country was behind our troops. Whitney Houston sang the best rendition of the national anthem I've ever heard at the Super Bowl on January 27, 1991. In the weeks and months later, it seemed every other house was flying the flag. People were nice, opening doors for each other, letting you in their lane on the highway. Yeah, where's that? I can tell you it was also a great time to be in the military. I also think that time frame was when we finally began to thank Vietnam veterans in a tangible way. My only wish about the Vietnam years is the veterans of that war should have come home to the hero's welcome General Schwarzkopf and the troops received. How about a hand for Vietnam veterans, please? Then there was 9/11. Again, neighbor helping neighbor, flying the colors, proud of our country. It's hard to believe that was 22 years ago. All these folks behind me weren't alive yet. What happened since then? Who have we become as a nation? How do we get our patriotism back and our love of country back and get flags flying again? Maybe the answer lies in repairing the amnesia that seems to have crept into people's lives about who fought and died for this country and that flag and our freedoms. We do that by keeping the stories of those people alive. It seems every town has plaques and memorials to those who made the ultimate sacrifice, and that's where it starts. I left Norwalk for 30 years. A few years after I moved back, I attended this very event at Calf Pasture Beach for the first time. I had an opportunity to walk around the Shea McGrath Memorial for the first time. Then I came face to face with the World War II plaque there for the first time. I was astounded. that 184 Norwalk boys went off to war to defeat Nazism and Japanese imperialism and didn't survive. 184. These are Norwalk names you've heard of: Schofield, Comstock, Tierney, McGrath. And on other plaques from other wars that some of you may be very familiar with: McGinnis, Shea, Caskey, Fabrizio, Bachman, Fahey. I'm going to talk about a few of them so you can get to know them. You know how weather forecasters probably overuse the word hyper-local? Is that two words or one word? Hyper-local. Well, all these stories are hyper-local to this place today, Veterans Park, and you'll see why. I'll start with the Bearwood brothers, who lived at 25 Cove Avenue, which is on the corner of Cove and 3rd Street. Lieutenant Junior Grade Andrew Bearwood, Norwalk High School, class of 1940. He was on the football and soccer teams, was a Navy pilot assigned to the USS Bunker Hill during World War II. On April 7, 1945, he took off on a mission to bomb the Japanese fleet, and his plane never returned. His little brother by 4 years, Frank, ran a grocery store at 25 Cove Avenue. He died of wounds received in Wonju, South Korea on February 13, 1951. His parents lost 2 sons in 2 different wars. That's a Norwalk story. Then there's Staff Sergeant Robert Paul Valentic. Robert's last local address in Norwalk was 25 Seaview Avenue. Seaview Avenue. That sounds familiar, right? That's that road right back there. And number 25 is at the end of the brick sidewalk just across the street. That's where he lived. Picture that. The B-25 Sergeant Valentic was flying on as a radio operator, went missing on February 4th, 1945 over the North Sea. The newspaper report said the family was holding out hope that he was being held as a prisoner of war somewhere. A witness said the plane was in formation and took fire from a German plane. The witness went on to say, quote, "It pulled out of formation and headed for the undercast. It was smoking but appeared to be under control. No parachutes were seen," unquote. The plane was never found and is assumed to have crashed in North Sea. The last one I'll share with you is the story of Technician 5th Class James Michael Dunn, United States Army Air Force. He lived at 209 Liberty Square. For those that may not know where that is, it's right over there. 209 Liberty Square, hyper-local. The address is now a liquor store called 99 Bottles. If you know that strip mall over there. Tech 5 Dunn was assigned to the 24th Pursuit Squadron in the Philippines. In the spring of 1942, the ground combat situation on Luzon quickly became desperate because of major landings by the Japanese on the island. The Allied forces surrendered on the Bataan Peninsula on April 9, 1942. The Japanese began the forcible transfer of American and Filipino prisoners of war to various prison camps in central Luzon at the northern end of the Philippines. The largest of those camps was the notorious Cabanatuan prison. At its peak, Cabanatuan held approximately 8,000 American and Filipino prisoners of war that were captured during and after the fall of Bataan. 8,000. Camp overcrowding worsened with the arrival of Allied prisoners who had surrendered from Corregidor on May 6, 1942. Conditions at the camp were poor, with food and water extremely limited, which led to widespread malnutrition and outbreaks of malaria and dysentery. By the time the camp was liberated in early 1945, approximately 2,800 Americans had died at Cabanatuan. Prisoners were forced to bury the dead in makeshift communal graves, often completed without records or markers. As a result, identifying and recovering remains interred at Cabanatuan was difficult in the years after the war. Tech 5 Dunn's remains could not be associated with any remains recovered from Cabanatuan after the war. The Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency still lists his case today as active pursuit. The definition of that is active pursuit cases are assessed to have sufficient information to justify research, investigation, or recovery operation in the field. These cases are the priority for operational planning and allocation of resources. That's direct from their website. With any luck, someone or several people from James Dunn's family have provided their DNA to the DPAA. Hopefully a match is made someday soon and he can come home to Norwalk to a hero's welcome. DNA matching has happened 4 times in this history of the Norwalk. Martin Troy and most recently Louis Dodo from World War II, and Larry Thorne and Joseph Brown from Vietnam. So that's just 3 hyperlocal stories, right there, right there, right there. I could go on, but I'll kind of leave that to you to look up the rest. I can tell you that in this city, we remember and have certainly made an effort. Both high school ROTC programs have a program where they honor the fallen around Memorial Day. If it weren't for the leadership teams in those programs, those students wouldn't get any education about service and sacrifice. This city has also made an effort to remember. Behind me, on this brick sidewalk, on the left side, is a monument to honor the 201 Medal of Honor recipients, Purple Heart recipients from Norwalk. The monument was dedicated 6 months ago on December 10th, 2022. I remember when the Norwalk Hour and other news outlets covered the story. The comments people made online about it were disgusting. A couple of examples. And these people live among us. I know they're not here today. I say that this should be a no-go. Although we should change the name of the park, I understand from the old timers that it was called Duffy's Field. Maybe we should go back to that. Or, the last thing that we need is a monument to celebrate wars. Most forward-thinking towns are removing these horrid things. Why would anybody celebrate killings? Let's not soil this beautiful park with this. A park should be a happy place, not a celebration of wars. These are direct quotes. I copied and pasted right into this. Keyboard warriors, that's what we call them these days. Hiding behind fake names, just spewing nonsense for their own edification. I'd pay good money to see a family member of a Purple Heart recipient or of the fallen meet one of these keyboard warriors and have a little talk. A little education, straight from the heart. We need to reach people with this message, even if it's one at a time. I encourage you to visit the monument after this is over. Point your cell phone camera at the little QR code on the base of that monument, and you'll be taken to a web page with biographies of all 201 recipients of the Purple Heart Medal that the city knows about. There's a vision to build out this sidewalk even more with additional monuments. As a matter of fact, the city committee looked into moving the Civil War monument at the corner of Flax Hill and Washington Street to this park, but the price tag was too high at $40,000. Everybody knows where that is. Drive by it sometimes, you don't even know it's there. Out of sight, and maybe out of mind. We shouldn't take that as a defeat, just the reality of the fiscal times we live in these days. There are some things that you can do, and anyone that wants to contribute, here's some ways to contribute. Start with an artist's rendering of what this space behind me would look like. That monument down the sidewalk is the only thing in this park that has to do with veterans. And it's 2022. It's long overdue. So whoever is the artist that hatches this plan, this is pretty much a blank canvas. You can make this anything you want. The possibilities are endless, and maybe attend an Arts Commission meeting and ask for their help. Attend a Common Council meeting and request funding to commission an artist to give this vision some next steps. How about a contest to generate additional interest in the community? Attend a Board of Education meeting and ask that the local history of the fallen heroes of Norwalk get added to the history curriculum at every grade. And most importantly, talk to your family, especially kids and grandkids if you have them, about service to the country and how this country is still the best country in the world because of the freedoms protected by our veterans. Ask Paolo Barros, the new chairman of Norwalk's Military and Veterans Liaison Committee, how you can help him make the vision a reality as a city so we can help repair the amnesia. I'll leave you with this. At the time, General and eventually President Dwight Eisenhower wrote something in the Golden Book at St. Paul's Cathedral in London after the liberation of Europe. It reads, "Here we and all who shall hereafter, living in freedom, will be reminded that to these men and their comrades we owe a debt to be paid, with grateful remembrance of their sacrifice and with the high resolve that the cause for which they died shall live." That's what patriotism sounds like to me, from Ike's words to our ears, as they used to say, I like Ike. Patriotism should not be a fad, and it takes all of us to bring it back. And that's all I've got today. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for being our speaker today. Now to honor the fallen, Sergeant at Arms lowered the flag to half-mast. Maybe seated. Thank you. The next portion of our ceremony will pay tribute to all of those who were lost at sea. The Navy hymn will be played by the Brian McMahon High School Concert Band. That is our tradition that there is a boat in Norwalk Harbor that while we're playing the hymn, it drops a biodegradable reef to honor the fallen. And now performing Amazing Grace, here is Dana. we have a little surprise. Being presented by one of our heroes of our city, Sergeant Fonz. Sergeant Fonz.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sergeant Fonseca, and standing to my right is George Vivo, and he's holding up something that's very near and dear to my heart. I never forget. Those that made the ultimate sacrifice for us, I carry it on my back every time I ride my motorcycle. And those that made the ultimate sacrifice allowed me to stay here, standing before you as a veteran. I served during Operation Iraqi Freedom 3 from 2004 to 2005. And I have my lovely bride over here. She's going to give me a signal if I'm a little long-winded. So I'm going to try to execute the 3 B's. I'm going to be bold, I'm going to be brief, and then I'm going to be gone. Thank you, George. We all know why we're here, but there's always a group of people here that do an outstanding job that never get thanked, and that's our honor guards. So behind me, standing the entire time, representing the colors, to my left, the Norwalk Police Department Honor Guard led by Sergeant Joe Moquin, representing our colors. I would like to give them a thank you from me, from the bottom of my heart, for standing as long as they are, representing the colors that mean so much to me. I'm wearing my glasses today, not because I think I look cool, because I just may get emotional. And I thank Chief Walsh for letting me do this. I called him last night, and we had a brief conversation. And at the police department, we had a little small ceremony, and I thought it fitting in front of all of you to do the following. In the Army, I was a drill sergeant, and I taught people how to go to war, how to become soldiers, coming from video games to defending our nations. And I usually don't use notes, but I didn't want to forget this. So the acronym leadership, the L stands for loyalty, the D stands for duty, the R for respect, the S for selfless service, the H for honor, the I for integrity, and the P for personal courage. And when I see that in someone, I believe it in my heart that they deserve to be recognized. And today in our presence, we have a first lieutenant from the Army, Lena Vivo. Please come forward. In an effort to spread awareness of the opioid addiction affecting the nation in the United States, I decided to do something crazy, and of course with my wife's permission. On June 1st, I'm going to ride my motorcycle starting from Madawaska, Maine, to Key West, Florida, to San Ysidro, California, and then to Blaine, Washington. Me and two of my good friends are going to try to spread awareness, and our simple, humble goal is to try to save one life. And Cinco lost his son to an overdose. And when I asked him, what does that really mean? He said, well, if somebody had a goal to save a life, maybe they could have saved my son's life. So my goal is to help my big brother save a life. And Lena found out that I had a fundraiser last week, and I had a modest goal to try to raise $1,000. And Lena, along with my daughter, who flew in from Florida because she heard I was doing this to support me, they decided to help me raise a little bit of money. And because of Lena, she demonstrated loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. And we surpassed our goal tremendously. In the military, there's something that's called a challenge coin. And when I called Chief Walsh, he allowed me to present Lena with the Norwalk Police Challenge coin. And we had a really cool day at the police department, right, Lena? Yes. But when I found out this was happening, I came over, I was not on the program, and I am blessed to be standing in front of the colors at half-mast talking about this really cool person. I always carry a challenge coin in my pocket, and it reminds me of my service to my country and the sacrifices that were made by those before me. The Tears from Heaven organization that I've attached myself to allowed me to take my coin out of my pocket and replace it with their coin. And my plan was to take this coin with me across country and spread awareness to try to save one life. But because Lena selflessly gave her time and was professional in every sense of the word, and she had a little fun too, I've decided today that I don't need that coin. Because I got another one. And from me, from the bottom of my heart, Lena, I love you. And I wish you the best in your career. And by the way, Lena just got hired by the Connecticut State Police. When a coin is presented to a junior from a senior, it means something. And I say to you, Lena, thank you.
You're not the only one that got teary-eyed. Now let's please stand for the rifle volley by the Norwalk Police Department rifle team, the Playing of the Taps. Detail by Aaron Rennie.
Forward, out. Hands right, please. Ready? Eight. Five. Ready? Eight. Five. Ready? Eight. Five. Half left. Face. Uniform personnel. Reason. Out.
Sergeant at Arms, raise flag to pull next. be seated. Let's welcome back Rich Olson for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Paulo. Such a beautiful sunny day. A ceremony such as this takes months of planning and coordination. I would like to thank the Norwalk Veterans Memorial Committee for their work and efforts. In harmony with the City of Norwalk, the Mayor's Office, various departments, police and fire departments, we work together each year on these important ceremonies. While I cannot name everyone, we are most grateful for everyone's cooperation. From the high school band for music and taps to the JROTC cadets, just to name a few. A special thanks to Paulo of the Veterans Liaison Committee and Irene Dixon of the Mayor's Office for their leadership, support, and assistance. And mostly to you, our community, and our families of loved ones. Again, we are honored to work with you all. Thank you, and Memorial Day greetings. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Now, our benediction will be offered by Rabbi Ita Baskai.
Let us pray, friends. Source of life, source of strength, we have gathered on this beautiful day to bring honor, respect, and dignity to our fellow citizens whose lives were cut short during wartime service. We are humbled at their dedication to our nation. We are grateful to them, to their families, for their service. We mourn with their loved ones for the many years and joys robbed from them. Today, we remember them. I'd like to conclude today's ceremony with a beautiful poem written by Rabbi Sylvan Kamens entitled "We Remember Them," where each line ends with those words. And I'll invite you, as we get to each line, to say with me, "We remember them." At the rising of the sun and at its going down, we remember them. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. At the shining of the sun and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. At the beginning of the year and at its end, we remember them. As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joy we crave to share, we remember them. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember them. When we have achievements that are based on theirs, we remember them. As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. May their memories be for our blessing.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. Before we retire the colors, one quick announcement. Next week, Monday, May 29th, Memorial Day, at 10 a.m., will be our annual Memorial Day Parade, hosted by the City of Norwalk. We hope to see you out there in the parade route. My thanks to all that attended, my thanks to all that participated, and thank you very much to all that made the ceremony possible. With that, please stand for the retiring of.